The idea that a person can vanish without a trace makes all of us uncomfortable. Apart from psychopaths. Psychopaths don't fear anything. Not even a man leopard. But putting that aside, this is a list of 10 creepy multiple person disappearances. On September 4th, 1978, 13-year-old Scott and 8-year-old Amy FanDuel mysteriously disappeared. They were last seen by their own mother before she left their wood cabin to go out for the night. She was a real silly goose because it was only when the local school rang up the next morning that she realised her children were missing. Detectives suspected the children's father for a long time afterwards, and his girlfriend reportedly asked money from the police so that she may reveal what happened to the children. What makes this more weird is that bullet casings were found just outside the cabin, and the cabin itself was burned to the ground just years later. I mean, this really is just one point on the massive list of reasons never to live in a wooded cabin. In 1979, 5 men take a boat named the Sarah Joe on a fishing trip. A huge storm struck their area of water and they were never seen again. The amazing thing is that pieces of the Sarah Joe were found 9 years later on a tiny island 2,000 miles away. The body of one of the crew was found buried under a small pile of rocks, but no trace of any of the others was ever found. No one really has any idea what happened to them, but my question is that with only one body being found, could this not just be the most elaborate assassination attempt ever? One of the most mysterious events of the First World War was the disappearance of an entire British Army regiment. According to eyewitness accounts from New Zealand soldiers, the Royal Norfolk Regiment began to march up a Turkish hillside before mysteriously disappearing into the fog. Despite massive searches, not one trace of the 200 men was ever found. Now this does sound weird, but if I was ever conscripted to fight in a war, I'd disappear too. I'd be in a Peruvian village like a Nazi war criminal with my wife named Olga. I'd be eating German sausages while you'd be fighting in a war. In August 1942, 2 American soldiers disappeared from within a moving blimp. For any of you youngsters out there who don't remember the 1940s, a blimp was what people used to fly around in before they realised it was worse than actually walking. The Navy launched an investigation into the disappearance, finding that no parachutes or life jackets were missing, and that all the electronics aboard were working fine. It has since been dubbed the Ghost Blimp, as no one is quite sure what happened August 16, 1942. On the 8th of March 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 mysteriously vanished while en route to a Chinese airport. The only thing we know for sure is that the plane's transmitter was manually switched off and the flight path was drastically changed, and this was done without any warning signals being sent out. The real strange thing is that the black box has never been found. A black box usually sends out a distress warning at least 30 days after a crash. Angkor was an ancient civilization located in what is now Cambodia. It was equally famous for its incredible buildings and its considerable elephant population, which must have annoyed the city's architects. Maybe it annoyed them so much they killed everyone they knew, because the whole civilization mysteriously vanished in the 14th century. The Springfield Three were a 47-year-old woman, her 19-year-old daughter, and their 18-year-old friend. In June 1992, they suddenly disappeared from a house in Springfield, Missouri. Their vehicles, possessions, and food were all left behind. There was no sign of a break-in apart from one broken porch light, and the TV was even left switched on. Someone later came forward claiming to have seen the 47-year-old woman driving a van, while a mysterious man screamed at her, "Don't do anything stupid," which is actually a greeting in Springfield, Missouri. Welcome to Springfield. Don't do anything stupid. The Roanoke Colony was England's first settlement in mainland America, but it is more commonly known as the Lost Colony, as the whole group of settlers mysteriously disappeared sometime before 1590. When it was discovered that they were missing, there were few clues as to what happened to them, but the word Croatoan was carved into a nearby post. Croatoan was the name of a nearby island, but when the English officials tried to sail there, they were blown off course and forced to return to Europe. They returned several years later, but found no trace of the settlers on the island. So what happened to the settlers? The Spanish couldn't have killed them, as they were unaware of the colony's existence. Legend has it they were abducted by natives. On Christmas Eve 1945, one family had 5 children disappear all at once. They just vanished during a huge fire that burned down the family home. We can rule out them dying in the fire, as no remains were found, not even teeth. Many people believe that the fire was used as a diversion in order to distract the parents while the children could be abducted. The house's phone wire had deliberately been cut, and a ladder was found 75 feet away in a ditch. Ultimately, the parents both died before the mystery could be solved. The MV Joyita was a merchant boat that set sail for the Tokyo Islands in 1955. 4 days later, the island port sent out the message that the boat had never arrived. So long story short, the boat was found 5 weeks later, drifting 600 miles off course and completely abandoned. The boat's navigation equipment and 3 lifeboats were missing, but the ship was in working order. Many of the windows had been smashed, and the engine was completely covered in mattresses. The medical kit was also found to contain blood-soaked rags. So I've spent the last few days trying to think of a single scenario that could be solved by throwing mattresses on an engine. So far I've been unsuccessful, and frankly it's become so tedious that I want to drown myself. Maybe that's what happened to them. And so that brings us to the end of the list today. If you think you could solve any of these mysteries, leave me a comment. Remember to subscribe for more, and maybe like and even share this video if you want to help me out.